Thank you very much. As you probably have heard, some very big things have happened, but the biggest seems to be that the GDP just announces all the way down to 1.6%, and it's heading south. It's going to get worse. Gas prices in California were just also announced at $7.60. Gasoline is going way up. Energy costs are going way up. And the stock market is, in a sense, crashing. The numbers are very bad. This is Bidenomics. It's catching up with him. It's lucky that it's catching up before he leaves office as opposed to after he leaves office. But this is Bidenomics. It's destroying our country at the border, destroying our country with other countries. They no longer respect the United States. I think the dollar's in tremendous trouble in terms of currency. This is going to be the standard, and it's going to be the standard with me. With Biden, you're going to lose. The dollar is the standard. That'll be like losing the biggest war we've ever lost. And it's a shame, but it's all the way down to 1.6, and I'll tell you, nobody thought that would be possible, and it looks like it's heading down from there. So that's very bad news. This morning I met with great people, construction workers, some Teamsters, and other unions, and some not in unions, and we had a fantastic morning. You were there, some of the press was there. Great show of support. As you know, some tremendous polls came out over the last 24 hours where we're up in all of the swing states and up nationally. But one came out where we're down very little in New York. New York traditionally isn't won by Republicans anymore. It used to be 50 years ago, but not anymore. And I think we have a good chance of winning New York. We're going to give it a big play. We're going to the South Bronx to do a rally. We're going to be doing a rally at Madison Square Garden, we believe. We think we're signing Madison Square Garden to do it. We're going to have a big rally honoring the police and honoring the firemen and everybody, honoring a lot of people, including teachers, by the way. We're honoring teachers because teachers have been very badly aligned with some very poor leadership. But we'll be honoring the people that make New York work, and we'll be doing a number of large rallies. It'll be very exciting. But we think we have a real good chance of winning New York. And again, the swing states, we're leading in every one of them, and by a lot, not just by a little, by a lot. But the big news today, I think, is the 1.6%. When you look at 1.6 GDP, that's a number that nobody thought was possible. That's a real bad number. And it looks like the projections are heading in the wrong direction. And that's why the stock market's down so big today. So in the meantime, I'm at this trial. My constitutional rights have been taken away from me. But every single expert, every legal scholar, every respected scholar has said this is no case. There is no case here. This is just a political witch hunt. Thank you very much.
How are you feeling about the Supreme Court argument in the trial? Are you ready to this in the argument?
I think that the Supreme Court has a very important argument before it today. I would have loved to have been there, but this judge would not allow that to happen. I should be there, but he wouldn't allow it to happen. I think he puts himself above the Supreme Court, which is unfortunate, isn't it? But the argument on immunity is very important. The president has to have immunity. This has nothing to do with me. This has to do with a president in the future, for 100 years from now. If you don't have immunity, you're not going to do anything. You're going to become a ceremonial president. You're just going to be doing nothing. You're not going to take any of the risks, both good and bad. I mean, you're going to make some great decisions and save the country. You're going to make some decisions which are unfortunate, but that's the way it is. But you're not going to do anything if you don't have immunity, because otherwise you're going to be prosecuted after you leave office for doing something like going into an area, going into a country, doing lots of things that you wouldn't be doing. And we don't want a ceremonial president. We have to have a real president. And assuming you have the right person, that can make a big difference. You saw that for 4 years when I was president. We were respected all over the world. We had the best economy we've ever had. Everything was good. We had no wars. We defeated ISIS. We had no wars. We had no nothing. But we were respected all over the world. And now it's a disgrace. We also, by the way, had the single best border ever in recorded history of our country. We had the best border ever. We built 571 miles of wall. We were going to build 200 more miles, far we were going to build. But we had a country that was respected, and now we have a country that's a joke. It's being laughed at all over the world, and you have riots at all the universities. The only place that's locked down is this courthouse because they don't want any supporters here. They don't want MAGA here. They don't want anybody here. This thing is locked down like a buttoned-up vest, and it shouldn't be. If they did the same lockdown at Columbia, NYU, and the colleges and universities, you'd have no problem whatsoever. But there, you can put tents up, you can stay as long as you want. But this courthouse is locked down. There's not a person within 5 blocks. They have more police here than, and I call them New York's finest because that's what they are. And they don't want to be doing this either. They like to be straightening out conditions, and they'd like to be at the colleges and making sure that they don't have what's happening, because what's happening at the colleges is a disgrace. All over the world, people are laughing at us. This is the worst run country right now, probably anywhere, just about. You don't get much worse. We have a president who's a disaster. We have a president who's the worst president in the history of our country. All you have to do is look at the millions of people coming in from prisons, from mental institutions and terrorists. They're coming in at levels we've never seen before. So I'm going to go in now and sit in front of a case, election interference. This is the way they think they're going to get elected. But I guess based on what I'm looking at, it's driving up my poll numbers, not driving them down. Thank you very much.
Yes, it's true. It was even true before the New York Times or someone in the New York Times said it. This is the most patently, obviously politicized prosecution in memory. And I think that it's so outrageous that sometimes we look at these cases as they come up in tandem. And what we fail to take note of is the cumulative effect of all of this on Trump's due process rights, which he has, whether these Democratic prosecutors want to acknowledge that or not. For example, and probably this is the clearest example, he has a right to be present at the Supreme Court today, completely apart from tactically whether it's a good idea for him to be there and whether his lawyers would actually want him there, whether the court would want him there. He has a right to be there. A criminal defendant has a right to be present at all of the critical stages of his prosecution. If this argument today was was happening in front of Judge Chutkan, that would be in some ways more obvious than it is, even though the stakes are higher with the argument before the Supreme Court. He's not being permitted to be there because of the trial in New York and the fact that the judge in New York would not let him go to the Supreme Court because he's also got a right to be present at the trial. And the point I want to make is these prosecutors brought these cases tactically. Bragg waited 5 years to bring this case so that it could be teed up for trial in the months before the 2024 election. All this haste to get the immunity issue decided is because they're saying it's important that this take place before the election. There's no rule of law reason for that. There's no law enforcement reason for that. It's entirely, blatantly political.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
It's not about justice, it's not about agenda, it's not about mobilizing people, it's about dialing for corporate dollars. These two parties have sold the U.S. government and the American people to the highest bidders.